David McGuinty, Minister of National Defence. We have Caroline Xavier, Chief of Communications of Security Establishment. Stephanie Beck, right? Deputy Minister, Department of National Defence. Lieutenant Colonel Stephen Kelsey, Vice Chief of the Defence Staff and Canadian Armed Forces. Mark Mess, Deputy Commissioner on behalf of the Commissioner of the Canadian Coast Guard. Jonathan Moore, Chief Financial Officer, Department of National Defence. Heather Sheehy, Assistant Deputy Minister, Materiel, Department of National Defence. And with that, I would now like to invite the Minister to his opening statement. You have up to 5 minutes, sir.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and good morning, members of the committee. Good morning, bonjour. Thank you for inviting me to appear before you today to discuss the 2025-2026 Supplementary Estimates B for the Department of National Defence, the Communications Security Establishment, and the Canadian Coast Guard. Mr. Chair, it's been about 7 months since I was appointed and honoured to become Canada's Minister of National Defence. During that time, the Government of Canada has taken bold action to rebuild, to rearm, and to reinvest in our military after, I think we would all agree, decades of chronic underfunding. In an increasingly dangerous and unpredictable world, the Canadian Armed Forces need state-of-the-art capabilities to defend every inch of our territory, especially in the Arctic and our maritime approaches, and to meet our commitments as a reliable ally. Cela m'amène à parler du budget.
This leads me to the Supplementary Estimates B before us today, which were tabled in the House on November 7th. The additional funds we are requesting today will help us continue our work to strengthen Canada's sovereignty, security, and prosperity.
Ce sont des priorités que nous partageons tous, je crois. Au total, la Défense nationale demande un financement supplémentaire de 1,1 milliard de dollars, soit presque le même montant qui serait transféré à d'autres organismes fédéraux, ce qui se traduirait par une augmentation nette globale de 35,6 millions de dollars.
Point of order. Interpretation is interpreting English into French.
7 milliards de dollars pour l'exercice financier à ce jour. Ces provisions.
The hell are they doing?
Ces prévisions reflètent une combinaison de demandes.
I know it's early in the morning, but like.
Trésor et de remaniements liés à des projets d'immobilisation majeurs.
I might have to switch to Flora in the meantime.
Capital Investment Fund that are ready for further funding, including housing for primary reserve units, uncrewed aircraft systems, and more. $215 million reprofiled for the River-class destroyer project, $59 million for the Domestic Ammunition Production Initiative, $4.8 million for Arctic Over-the-Horizon Radar, and many more projects, Mr. Chair. Nous demandons également aux autorités de la garde côtière canadienne de soutenir les services de remorquage d'urgence sur la côte ouest. Au total, cette demande de financement est compensée par plus d'1 milliard et 60
by more than $1.077 billion in transfers to other federal departments and agencies, including $36.5 million to the Communications Security Establishment.
Most of these transfers will support initial investments in our new defence industrial strategy, the first ever for Canada. This strategy will ensure that CAF members have the infrastructure and the equipment they need to defend our country and support our allies. It will also prioritize investments that boost the Canadian economy and create opportunities for our homegrown defence businesses to thrive, from small startups to larger established anchor firms. Mr. Chair, through Budget 2025, we will see an historic increase in defence spending, defence funding to $81.8 billion over 5 years, beginning this fiscal year. Cela comprend plus de 9 milliards de dollars.
This includes over $9 billion from the funding announcement made by the Prime Minister on June 9th, which was approved in Supplementary Estimates A.
today. These investments will strengthen the readiness and resilience of the Canadian Armed Forces for decades to come, and it's long overdue. Our goal is clear: to give those who serve Canada the equipment, infrastructure, modern technology, and support they need right now to do the critical work we ask of them right now. In uncertain and volatile times, this is what Canadians expect, and we cannot afford delay. Before I conclude, I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge the work that this committee has undertaken in studying Bill C-11. I understand the committee has just concluded its substantive meetings and will shortly undertake clause-by-clause analysis. I believe and I hope the legislation before you takes the necessary steps to increase trust and transparency for victims and survivors of sexual misconduct in the Canadian Armed Forces. With that, I'm now ready to take your questions. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you, Minister. We're starting our first round of questioning, and it goes to Mr. Bazan. You have up to 6 minutes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Minister, for appearing today on Supplementary Estimates B. You talked about that there is $476 million here in future fighter jet capabilities. Just wondering, we saw in the CBC story here that the F-35 beat the Gripen fighter jet by a mile in the 2021 Defense Department competition. In your report and recommendations to the Prime Minister in this review, did you let him know that the F-35 beat the Gripen by a mile?
As you know, Mr. Bazan, the replacing that CF-18 fleet, it will represent the most significant investment in the Royal Canadian Air Force, probably ever. And as directed by the Prime Minister, we are reviewing this decision to ensure that the F-35 continues to be the best choice for Canada. Canada will take the time we need to get this right, and we are continuing with our commitments and remain on track for scheduled aircraft deliveries.
So in your advice to the Prime Minister, did you let him know that out of 60 points, the F-35 scored 57.1 or 95%, and beat the Gripen in every area on mission performance, upgradability, sustainment, technical criteria, and capability delivery? And the Gripen only scored 19.7% or 33%, or 19.7 points out of 60, which is 33%. Did you make sure the Prime Minister was aware of that? As CBC said, it was a mile wide, the capabilities and the best craft for our Royal Canadian Air Force.
I think, as you know, Mr. Bazan, the review continues, and it will continue until it's complete. And I am quite sure that the kinds of metrics you're alluding to and referring to will find their way into the final report.
Yeah, are you aware, Minister, that Brazil has also buying Gripens and are assembling them in Brazil? And were you aware that production has been delayed by 8 years?
We are aware of the situation with respect to Saab and the production of the Gripen, both in Brazil and elsewhere.
And that the cost overruns could have bought more fighter jets, but now they have to kick the can down because of lack of supplies and deliveries of the fighter jets, the Gripens, for the Brazilian Air Force?
We're aware of all of the matters that you're referring to, yes.
Okay, good, because costs have risen there. You're also are you aware that the production line for the Gripens in Brazil only created 110 staff directly on the production line, and 350 more were trained across the design, flight testing, production, and maintenance side. But so a total of only 460 jobs created in Brazil for the Gripens that they're building there, as well as for all of Latin America. So not the numbers that we're hearing getting thrown around here of 10,000 jobs, when Saab only actually employs 8,000 themselves in Sweden. Are you aware that
for your benefit, I've been studiously trying to avoid commentary in social media.
At the same time, you're the main advisor to the Prime Minister on the selection of our next fighter jet, and the F-35 won the competition here.
You're right in calling upon us to focus on the facts, which is what we're doing.
Okay. And you're aware that the Czech Republic is also buying the F-35 to actually replace their Gripens?
I'm aware that there are 8 founding countries that were involved in standing up the F-35, including Canada, and there are something like 13 to 14 additional customers.
Yeah, good. And the F-35 was also selected by Finland in a very vigorous competition, and again, won on every part of their analysis over Super Hornets, over Gripens, over Rafales, and it was also the cheapest option in their mind.
Aware of all of that, and I assume
Fantastic. I'm hoping
it will be
you're
part of
sharing
the
that with
review
the
as it's
Prime
presented to the Prime Minister.
So in your recommendations to the Prime Minister, have you at all done a survey of our fighter pilots to see what fighter jet they prefer to fly, and if the decision is by the Gripen, are they going to stay in the Air Force?
I'm quite sure that the review that's being undertaken will reach out to the folks who run the Royal Canadian Air Force and will get their operational and other input.
Do you tell us how many fighter pilots we have currently in the Royal Canadian Air Force?
No, I'm not in a position to tell you that because there are a number of folks who are being trained. The recruitment is up. It is a very difficult thing to find a pilot. I'm told it takes about 1,000 applicants to produce one fighter aircraft pilot. And folks are winnowed down over time. Some become helicopter pilots, so it's a moving target.
So you're saying
I would say as well that the actual pay schedule for pilots has been increased significantly. So we're actually in a better position now to be able to compete with commercial airlines.
So are we still in this fiscal year, getting back to the subs, is you're saying that we're spending $46.5 billion. We need how much more to get to 2% before the end of March? At one point, I know it was around 9.3 billion.
Yeah. Yeah, we're good. The deputy is assuring me that we're good. We're on our way to fulfilling the 2% expenditures by March 31st.
Because one thing that the Department of National Defense hasn't been good at is spending all the money they've been getting. We've had, over $10 billion lapse. Only roughly 10% of that has ever gone back into actual operations and or capital investments in infrastructure. So how are you going to ensure that we hit the 2% and don't fall behind the 8 ball?
Well, because we're proceeding line by line, expenditure by expenditure, procurement by procurement. As I said in the House yesterday, almost 38,000 jobs are being created right now in Canada with 15 major procurements. So we're on this and watching it like a hawk, and you're right to raise it. And we're making sure that we're going to be delivering on time by March 31st.
Thank you. Ms. Vivian Lapointe, you have up to 6 minutes.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, Minister, and thank you for joining us here this morning. Supplementary estimates B include additional authorities for ongoing capital projects and infrastructure upgrades across the country. Can you tell this committee how these investments will directly improve the quality of life for Canadian Armed Force members, whether that's through housing or modernized workplaces, equipment renewal, and how do these improvements support both recruitment and retention?
It's hard to know where to start, Ms. Lapointe, in terms of the volume of undertakings right now at DND and CAF. We are busy rebuilding 33 bases. We're busy driving recruitment and retention. We brought in the largest single pay increase since 1997. It's important for Canadians to remember that armed forces members don't have collective bargaining. They can't go on strike. They're in a chain of command. They have to respond and they have to deliver. We have to make sure that the quality of life contributions that we can make as a, quote, employer are there so that we can recruit and retain. I'll give you an example. We're moving aggressively, for example, right now to make sure every base has got active Wi-Fi and powerful Wi-Fi for all members, something that heretofore has not been present over decades. If we're going to go in and actively recruit young women and men from different locations in the country, if we want to go get more fighter pilots, as Mr. Bazan was alluding to, we need to make sure that we're meeting those folks more than halfway to make sure that they have proper housing, which we're investing in, childcare, which we're investing in, electrification of our bases, which we're investing in, water and wastewater, which we're investing in, kit, ammunition, rifles, kitchens. We're investing in all of this. And so, as the deputy mentioned to me a moment ago, it's line by line, project by project. So we're moving 50 balls down the field at the same time.
This committee has been studying and talking about increasing our defense in the Arctic and modernizing NORAD. And we note that these estimates provide additional funding tied to Canada's NORAD modernization commitments, and it includes early warning, command and control, and surveillance systems. Can you tell us, will these investments keep Canada on track to meet our NORAD obligations and strengthen North American, Arctic, and continental defense, certainly at a time of rapidly evolving threats?
We certainly plan on it. 2 years ago, we launched a $38 billion NORAD modernization effort. It is well underway. We all know why. Strategic competition, climate change, new emerging technologies are driving new security challenges in the region. If Canada is going to assert its sovereignty, it's got to live its sovereignty. We're working with our Inuit, we're working with Indigenous peoples, we're working with our forward deployed folks. We're looking at setting up a series of NOSHs, Northern Operating Centers across the north. We are, of course, putting in place an over-the-horizon radar system, a $6.4 billion system in conjunction with our Australian allies to make sure that Canada and North America is well prepared to see what might be coming at it. This, of course, links into our discussions on integrated air and missile defense with the United States and NORAD. So all of these things are aligning in a way now that we are better protecting Canada's security and sovereignty, and we're doing it conjointly with the only binational command in the world, which is NORAD.
The estimates include significant investments in procurement, engineering support, and sustainment activities that rely heavily on Canadian suppliers. Can you tell us how these new authorities help us build a stronger, more resilient defense industrial base? And also, what steps are being taken to ensure regions, and I'm going to speak specifically to Northern Ontario, where we have strengths in nickel and battery materials and advanced fabrication and mining technology. How can they participate in these opportunities?
On Northern Ontario front, I was just in North Bay, visiting our base there, looking at the infrastructure requirements there, looking at the airport and beyond. But it turns out that Canada is very blessed. We have an awful lot of critical minerals. We have 10 or 11 of the required NATO critical minerals in abundance. And this is something that Canada can and will use to its advantage. It is stockpiling. We are talking to the United States and other international and other NATO partners. Northern Ontario and other parts of the country are well positioned to not only exploit, but to convert and to adapt and to manufacture using critical minerals. We know that they will be important inputs. But the time is now. This opportunity we have in front of us, as the Prime Minister calls it, hinge moment, the time is now for us to give rise to a stronger, more diverse industrial base drawing on defense. And that's exactly what we're doing with the Defense Industrial Strategy, which will be launched shortly. And it will indicate where our sovereign capabilities are, what they would look like, what our needs are. In short, for Canadians who might be watching, what is it we need? What is it we can produce? And what is it we can sell and share with others? So we're going to give rise to a much bigger energy in that sector. And we are convinced it will go beyond what we're already doing. I'll just give you a snapshot. I mentioned in the House yesterday, 15 major procurements already underway, over 38,000 jobs. Those are families, parents, young people looking for opportunities for the future. There's more to come.
Thank you. Thank you both. Mr. Savard-Tremblay, you have up to 6 minutes.
Merci.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. Thank you to the Minister for being here and for the senior officials with him. Minister, we know that Canada will be investing close to $2 billion, almost $17.9 billion in military capacity over the next few years, including the National Ammunition Initiative. We also know that in the last year there have been a number of contracts, in fact, they've been documented in the media, that involve American companies. And basically, it was sometimes odd, the way in which the bids were dealt with. Only American companies, for instance, could bid. What about having a sustainable industrial capacity in Quebec or Canada so that we are not dependent on American supply chains? You're quite correct, Mr. Savard-Tremblay. That is precisely what we are aiming for. With IMT Precision, it will be producing 5,000 munitions per shells, I should say, per month. Since December 2023, that's 2,000 more per month now. There's a lot of growth in the field. We know we need to improve, and there's incredible capacity in Quebec. Our own capacity is what we need to ensure sovereignty. How do we do that? I mean, what is the strategy to make sure that there is no dependency on the American chains? In the SUP-Bs, there's $59.4 billion for production expansion of our capacity to produce our critical munitions here in Canada. So we work with a number of companies. And once our defense industrial strategy is launched eventually, we will be working together for more capacity because we recognize it's mandatory. This is a critical time for our sovereignty. We need to invest in the issue of ammunition, this domestic ammunition initiative. When you say that, you say to increase capacity, what does that involve? Subsidies to make these, to enhance and make them larger? Certainly, we will be enhancing the capacity. We are creating research centers that are top secret so that we can help our Canadian Armed Forces with production, with research. And that will actually create demand for the manufacturing of that ammunition. So there's an entire ecosystem. And that will be addressed directly in the strategy when it is launched. The Department of the National Defense is asking for $1.9 billion in the budget, major amounts for the destroyers and the F-35s. I know the F-35s are a major source of debate. But how do you explain this? And this is in SUP-Bs. Why are these requests not in the main budget? For that, I might need to defer to one of the experts here at the table, Deputy Minister or Chief Financial Officer. Thank you very much for your question.
Selon le budget supplémentaire, nous obtenons du financement supplémentaire. Dans ce cas-ci,
Why are they
ce
translating
sera
English to
pour
French
couvrir
again?
les frais.
Interpreters are.
Yeah, now they're finally realizing
It was a channel. It was a technical thing.
It's a technical
Yeah,
thing.
please proceed, Mr. Moore.
You can't get it right, huh?
Can you give me an extra 15 seconds back, sir?
So this is in addition to the main estimates. So these are for additional payments which we are making now in order to meet our obligations, either contractual obligations in the case of the River-class destroyer or memorandum of understanding obligations for the F-35 program. So they're additional. They're not the total amount of expenditures for the F-35 or the River-class destroyer program this year.
But my question was actually why.
Maybe I could pass to my colleague who could address that.
Certainly. Good morning, Chair. So I would say that as we manage contracts, it is not unusual for us to need to reprofile forward or back between fiscal years as we sort of continue to work with the companies, and these are very, very big projects, as you can imagine, to just make sure that we have the funding in the right fiscal year to meet our contractual agreements. And so with respect to the River-class destroyers, we have, for example, just started construction on the first. So that's an important milestone that we have reached this fiscal year. But we are always monitoring those payments.
For the current year, the current first fiscal year, what still needs to receive funding for which there would be this particular supplementary estimates? Are there certain budget items you need to tell us about?
Yeah, so I have sort of categories of spending that we're going to be using this funding and funding that we have in this fiscal year for the River-class destroyers. So things like spare parts, ammunitions, tools, materials, and other key supplies. And this funding is also going to be used to develop and deliver training so that our members are ready to operate the new ships when they arrive.
How much time do I have left, Mr. Chair? If I may, yes, go ahead. Look, it's important to remember that investment in the 3 River-class destroyers will contribute $719 million annually to our GDP and create 5,250 jobs per year between 2025 and 2039. So we can see how our investments in the defense industrial strategy, in our capacity, will be very beneficial to the Canadian and Quebec economy. Certainly, I have no doubt about it, but we have to focus on this.
Mr. Kibble, we're in our second round. You have 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Minister, for being here. You mentioned in your opening remarks new funding for emergency towing services on the British Columbia coast. Could you say how much that was again for me, please?
Just get it for you. 12.6?
Thank you.
12.6, forgive me.
We know that there's a weekly U.S. oil heavy cargo barges that travel the Inside Passage, heck, straight up to Alaska from Washington. Is that what these emergency towing services are for, or what emergency towing services are these for?
May I?
Please.
Ask the Coast Guard.
Thank you for the question, Chair. These emergency towing vessels have been in place since 2018. They were funded through the Oceans Protection Plan. And what that does is provide that backstop for a disabled vessel, that emergency towing capability. It's supplemental towing service that the Coast Guard currently doesn't
For
have.
the Minister, Secretary of State Fur appeared here on October 23rd, and a colleague asked him about the F-35 procurement review, which he replied, "It's not my file." It seems odd given it's the largest procurement project. So if it's not, is this your file that you're reviewing?
Yeah, just to clarify, we're in an implementation phase in the F-35. If we were talking about the submarines, that would be a file he would be more immediately involved in with the new agency, which is stood up to procure. So it is a file right now that's being reviewed by...
He said that the new Defense Investment Agency bureaucracy would not be handling that file.
That's correct.
Okay, so it's your file then that you're reviewing?
That's correct.
Thank you.
At the request of the Prime Minister.
Thank you. And we've heard from many industry experts and top Air Force generals that the F-35 is the best option for our next generation fighter. So what is the delay in this review?
The delay is that we're going to make sure that we take the time we need to get this right. The Prime Minister has asked for a fundamental review. It's being performed. We saw, for example, a couple of weeks ago, lots of talk, lots of speculation. We're trying to drive through that, to be frank with you. The scuttlebutt and the gossip and the talk, what I call undisciplined talk about acquiring something as important as a fighter jet, is not something we're paying attention to. We're looking at the details. We're looking at industrial benefits. We're looking at
the
Canadian
review
companies.
Is complete, so we're re-reviewing it because there's scuttlebutt and discussion.
We're reviewing it because it's a $28 billion acquisition for Canada, and the Prime Minister wants to make absolutely sure that it's the right one.
So the initial review was not good enough, and we're doing more review, is what you're saying?
No, we're building on the original.
Building on it, okay.
We're building on it.
So
there's more information
delay,
coming in, more industrial benefits, more discussion.
Could you explain, Minister, the delay? What is costing Canada for this delay, either by the month or by the year?
No costing. There's no additional cost to our knowledge in terms of taking the time we need to get this right for Canadians.
There's no cost in the delay. Okay, thank you. And perhaps then the actual price of the fighter jets, have they increased at all while we're delaying this over the years? And how much is that costing us?
No, not to my knowledge. No, the fighter jet contract is the fighter jet contract. The Auditor General indicated some inflationary pressures. The Auditor General, and we've addressed that as well in our response to the Auditor General's report on the F-35. But right now we are waiting for this review to be complete so we can get it right for Canadians.
So then the initial F-35s that were purchased, the follow-on, if that decision is made, they would be at the same price as the initial ones? Or are they going to be going
I'd like
up?
to ask my deputy to give you a bit of insight if I could.
Please.
Merci. Thank you for the question, Chair. the prices per aircraft evolve over time. So the price that we pay for aircraft number 1 is not necessarily the same price we pay for aircraft number 10 because of the length of time it takes to produce them. It's not a question of changing our project or changing our estimate.
The longer it takes to make a decision, the more the price of the aircraft is going to go up.
No, because we are continuing with the implementation of the existing arrangement that we have.
Okay, so the existing arrangement will keep the prices the same. Even if we delay, there is no cost increase in the program.
There is no cost increase to the expected cost, but that does not mean that the cost for the aircraft number 16 is the same as the cost for aircraft number 4.
Okay, but those prices will remain the same regardless of the amount of time it takes. So this is what I'm trying to get at. So that's okay. Thank you very much. Minister, you mentioned $476 million that is listed in the supplements for the fighter jet program, including training and infrastructure. Does this mean that we will be investing in bringing flight training back home to Canada? As you know, it's currently our pilots are being trained in the U.S. and in Italy primarily.
That is the plan. Right now, when Canada does take possession of its first F-35 or F-35s, as you know, we've committed to 16. Pilots will be trained in the United States, but we are looking forward to moving now with the expansion of the fleet. We'll be looking forward to training those folks back here in Canada.
Thank you. Mr. Watchhorn, you have up to 5 minutes.
Merci, Monsieur le Président, puis merci à vous.
Thank you. Thank you to the witnesses for being here. Minister, I had this incredible opportunity to make an announcement in Halifax last month. And we really met with some innovative companies in the defense sector. I'm sure you've traveled throughout the country, that you've met with so many companies of that ilk that are going to be able to take full advantage of the defense industrial strategy. I'd like you to explain to us how these businesses will benefit from this strategy. You're correct, Mr. Watchhorn. There are 600 at least businesses that are in the defense sector today, and some of these are incredible companies. We need to expand the number of businesses in this sector, and that's why we have the first defense industrial strategy in the history of Canada. We studied what is being done in other countries. We've spoken with over 1,000 stakeholders, hundreds of businesses. A few weeks ago, we met 12 individuals that are involved in venture capital matters, and the Minister of Defense works directly with people in the financial sector now. The idea is to give the private sector far more transparency, far more certainty about the needs of the Canadian Armed Forces, the material we'll need, and we need to work together to develop our domestic capability. And that is why we launched in Cove, outside of Halifax, this pilot project to stand up a top-secret research center, bringing together private and public sector, our universities that are also involved, to give birth, in essence, to new technology, AI, quantum, crypto. These are critical for the future. This is why we want to invest in this way. $962 million for this funding, because Canada can compete and can actually win in these markets. Thank you. Businesses have shown they were interested in joining international global markets. These technologies we're going to be developing in Canada, we can export and be good providers for other countries. Did you notice that there was interest from other countries? Absolutely. I met with IBM in my own riding a few days ago, and they just launched their new research, intelligence, and security center. Actually, not with any federal government financial assistance. They know that that is the future. But just take a look at what happened in Europe. We were able to negotiate with the European Union a new agreement, the only country outside of the European Union that was admitted to the European Club, if you will, to take part in procurement for $1 trillion in opportunities that will be opening up in the next 10 years. So we are opening up markets. The Prime Minister brought in funding from financing from other countries, for instance, the United Arab Emirates, millions of US $70 million in Canadian dollars. So we're looking for foreign direct investment so that we can really compete internationally. Do I still have some time, Mr. Chair? Last question. In Sub B, I noticed there was funding for ammunition. In Petawawa, that's what the soldiers were telling us. They needed more ammunitions for training purposes. They wanted to also be sure that our commitments in Latvia would also be covered. I want to hear what you have to say as to how we will provide this ammunition to our troops so they can be well prepared. We've really gained a lot of momentum and quickly in this area to be a sovereign country, to provide training for our young soldiers and the recruits, to give them access. You need to give them access to the ammunition they need on our bases and throughout Canada. In Latvia, we've seen the demand and the needs, and that is why we are speeding up our production, as I said to Mr. Savard-Lombré, throughout Quebec and throughout Canada, production and research in the field, to be sure that the things that we produce, consume, and use in Canada is of the highest quality. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Monsieur Savard-Lombré, you have 2.5 minutes.
Merci. Monsieur le ministre, donc vous demandez 400...
Minister, you're asking for $476 additional million for the F-35s and $215 million for River-class destroyers, something that was discussed a little earlier. These two projects, their actual costs, and if history serves, often actual costs are higher than those projected costs. Do you have any way to avoid cost overruns? Yes, there are strategies, there are measures in place. The way that the department manages its finances has been improved, and the deputy minister could give you the details. But look, you have to remember the fact that these two projects are bringing in a lot of investment in Canada, create a lot of new jobs. For each F-35, there are $3 million of economic benefits for Canada. There are dozens of companies involved in the production of F-35s, of the destroyers. For instance, with Irving in Halifax. And then we see 2,400 employees, 10,000 in total in Canada that are part of the ecosystem for the manufacturing. And of course, this is having a huge effect on our jobs. Thank you very much. The Deputy Minister? Thank you, Mr. Chair. I could add to that. For these two projects, given that they are major, and we're doing the same for the smaller size projects, we have meetings almost weekly with suppliers precisely to have these conversations on how to make sure costs are reasonable. What you see in the supplementary estimates are costs that are already provided for, but it's a question of timing. To date, in your conversations, these weekly conversations, can you tell us if this is actually what has been anticipated? Is it consistent? Yes, and actually with other government partners like Public Works, that is responsible for procurement. It will also be with the agency.
Ms. Gallant, I think you're splitting your time with Mr. Anderson.
Yes, and to the Minister through you, what number of replacement for the Gripen helicopters are being prepared for, and what type are they, and what is the amount thus far?
That's a highly technical question. I'm not in a position.
Okay, so what type of helicopters are replacing the Gripens?
Which type?
Yes.
Which type are we working with, gentlemen? Vice?
The Gripen helicopter performs multiple roles.
No, what is replacement for it, and are we preparing for it?
We haven't selected a replacement for all of the Gripen fleet yet. We are looking at the SOF version.
Okay, so you're not preparing the hangars yet for receiving them?
On an individual basis, so 427 Squadron,
Yes.
that you would know from your riding, is getting a upgrade to its facility, but it's agnostic of the selection of the...
Will the people remain the same, and is there allocation for the upgrading of the training as well as the any new recruits, the housing for them?
This is an excellent question. It's absolutely what we need to consider as the integration of the capabilities.
Okay.
So it's all going to be factored.
What amount has been spent so far or allocated to in regards to the SMR prototype? Has a place for the prototype being selected for the SMR that will eventually go into the Arctic? Do we know how much is going to be spent towards a prototype?
If I can help, I think what you're referring to are the funds being spent with AECL, which is developing a business case for a micro modular reactor.
Okay.
So that is being delivered through Natural Resources Canada directly. So,
but onto DND property.
Well, right now it's a prototype. It's in development. So then they would need to consider where they would use what place makes sense to do any testing, and then eventually, when it's all in good shape, where we could purchase as a government and deploy.
Okay, my question is for the Minister, if I may. I'm taking this over. Mr. McGuinty, do you agree that our forces should have the best possible equipment to keep them safe?
Yes.
Do you agree that the only metric we should be using is the quality of the equipment that we're using and the advantage that it gives our forces in the field?
I agree that we should be relying on the operational advice of the Canadian Armed Forces.
Okay. Inflection Point 25 considers 4 entire divisions for a total of anywhere between 60 and 80,000 soldiers. At the present time, and the infrastructure required and the equipment required to allow them to operate. At the present time, we can't fund a single brigade that's combat ready. This paper contemplates 16 of those brigades, 4 of which have to be combat ready. So far, we have the Coast Guard dragged into the mix, and now we're moving part of Transport Canada. Can you talk about can you tell us how much of the 2% is being allocated? How much of the 2% is being made up by the Transport Canada addition? That's okay.
It's a tiny fraction of the total.
How much money, though?
I couldn't tell you because they're not even here yet. This is still a discussion.
Okay, so we don't know how much.
So they are, in terms of FTEs, it's about 350 people. So if you consider in terms of overall budget, they will come with some operating money as well, but it's not going to be a significant increase.
Okay, so we're also moving another 3,000 civilians into D&D, I understand?
So this would be part of the growth that is planned because of the new work that we are taking on. Some of the 3,000 would be regular attrition and replacement of existing FTEs, existing people.
Okay. I guess my concern is that the claimed intent of the government is to turn what has become an atrophied military operation into a warfighting machine in the 21st century capable of symmetrical warfare. That's the intent?
That's the intent.
My concern is that we are going to, with all of the scrambling to drag all this stuff under the D&D budget without any real kinetic ability or addition, that we are going to get second-rate equipment like the Gripen, for instance, instead of the F-35. Can you assure us that the only criteria we're using is the safety of our soldiers moving forward?
You ask a very important series of questions. And I think we should all admit that we've all been negligent for the last 40 years.
I'm not arguing about negligence.
What we're talking about now is we've gone to the Canadian people. They have agreed that we should reinvest, rearm, rebuild.
Excuse me, sir, but that's not my question. My question is the only criteria we should use in getting equipment the betterment of the safety of our soldiers and their ability to operate?
I think the most important criteria is to listen to the operational advice from the experts who run the Canadian Armed Forces.
Who say that the F-35 is the one? Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chris Mallet, you have 5 minutes.
Thank you, Chair. And thank you, panel. It's an all-star panel we have here this morning for sure. Minister, you along with Minister Anand announced earlier this week more than $200 million in funding for Ukraine. Could you please detail how the investment will strengthen Ukraine's ability to meet its most urgent operational needs to defend its territory?
Thanks for the question. I think most members are aware that Canada, like every NATO country, has agreed to participate in the support of the creation of the Pearl program, which was negotiated by the Secretary General of NATO with the United States and others. Canada was one of the first contributors for the first packages, one of the first 3, I believe it was, $500 million US. And we've agreed now, we've decided to go further and support Ukraine even further with another 200 million Canadian, combined with others to buy another package at a time when Ukraine is in desperate need of more equipment. So the benefit is to be able to procure the equipment and get it to the theater of war as quickly as possible in Ukraine, because it is available, it is manufactured. And so the choice of materiel is a choice that is put forward by the Ukrainian military.
On another note, and I know we seem to have had a bit of a running ad for Lockheed Martin here this morning, and maybe we'll show a little bit of love to Airbus. But Minister, could you please provide an update on the major air mobility and transport aircraft procurement initiatives, how these acquisitions will strengthen operational capacity at 8-Wing Trenton, which is in, of course, my riding, the Bay of Quinte? As well as with that question, we'll get that question out of the way first.
You're talking about the Huskies.
Well, the Husky fleet, and
yeah.
I'm looking for any kind of an update as to where we're at with that program. The improvements to 8-Wing in particular that are coming along to accommodate that fleet, sir.
My understanding is that we're on the way to receiving these aircraft on time, and the $850-odd million of the reinvestment into Trenton, which will create 1,000 jobs in that region. Very helpful. HVAC jobs, electrics, concrete, lumber, gravel, construction. This is the net effect of this kind of investment, which we will see, Mr. Millett, across the country. In all the bases where we are making similar types of investments, a major economic generator for the country. So we're looking forward to seeing that process completed, and I think it's a $3.2 or $3.4 billion acquisition for this new fleet, which will of course help us as well refuel in the air our new fighter jet fleet. So very, very important, very long overdue, and we're moving forward.
One more question, and perhaps Ms. Beck or someone. Can you just refer as well to how the current procurement projects will support Canada's international humanitarian and logistical missions, many of which deploy again through my in my riding through CFB Trenton?
Do we freeze up here? What's going on?
Through my in my riding through CFB Trenton.
Well, I can just.
Minister's better.
Look, I think that not at all. I think that a perfect example is what we've just done with our women and men of the Canadian Armed Forces just did in Jamaica. It's phenomenal. After the tragedy there, we had dozens of our CAF members deployed there to stabilize, set up a system, and are now passing the baton to a different military configuration coming in to help rebuild and stabilize. So it's just the kind of incredible work that our women and men do for Canada abroad. So it is I think it's just a testament to their dedication and their service.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Bazan, you have up to 5 minutes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. In these estimates in capital expenditures, how much of that is going into housing? As you know, there are your general said that there's 7,200 homes short, residential housing units for our troops. We're hearing people leaving. Now 10% of our new recruits are leaving because the barracks are in such poor shape, and finding appropriate and affordable living accommodations is impossible. So I'm hoping that we're making some major investments.
The exact number is not in front of me, but I can tell you what we are doing. We're constructing and renovating more than 2,000 units within the next 5 years. That's in Gagetown, Halifax, Valcartier, Trenton, Kingston, Petawawa, Borden, Edmonton, and Esquimalt. I can tell you that I've authorized new alternative methods to purchase housing. For example, we just purchased 37 minutes from the Canadian Forces Base Esquimalt, an entire building, which had never been done before.
My understanding that building ended up costing us double what it was originally listed at. It got into a bidding war, but I appreciate the
No, I don't think that's quite correct, but we'll review the numbers.
Monsieur le Président, la dernière question n'a pas été interprétée.
The last question was inaudible. It was inaudible at the mic, so if people could speak one at a time.
Slightly under.
Yeah,
It's more so that Bazan's quiet. He's really quiet.
I think my information, Mr. Bazan, is that we paid under asking.
Est-ce qu'on peut connaître la question?
Can we hear the question? The mic was off. Can we hear the question? I just asked for the question again.
And we're just talking about the investment in Esquimalt for the 37 units condo building that was in receivership and turned into a bidding war and was more than what originally was offered. It was 2.9. I think you got it for $4 million.
I think that's not correct, but we will get you the numbers.
Okay, no, I've got them actually from.
And just in terms of Jonathan.
But
sorry.
Okay, sure. Go ahead.
So no additional funding in supplementary estimates B for housing. Significant funding was provided in the main estimates as a result of the ONSAF policy decisions last year.
Okay, because up until last year, there was only 32 houses that were slated to be built by your predecessor. In the subs, you also have domestic ammunition production initiative, $59.4 million. What is that for, and how does it benefit CAF?
I'm going to make sure I get you the right numbers here, so I have this for you. For example, investments we've made with IMT Precision can now produce 5,000 shells per month, an increase of 2,000 shells per month since December of 2023. That's where the $59.4 million in these sub-estimates are targeting funding to strengthen and expand our ability to produce critical munitions domestically. We're looking over our defense policy timeline of 20 years, $9.5 billion to build a strategic supply of ammunition, which might
As you're aware that Ukraine uses probably around 4,000 shells a day, so having 5,000 a month barely keeps up if building up our surplus. Never mind if we want to donate any to Ukraine.
But
over the Horizon radar, $4.7 million. There's been a lot of controversy over the selection of the land up north of Peterborough. A lot of farmers are upset. I guess you're talking expropriation. Why was that site selected? And was there, in your opinion, enough consultation with the local community and property owners?
I think that goes back to Mr. Anderson's important question about operational requirements. And the site was chosen on the basis of ionospheric data and physics. It wasn't randomly chosen, as you can expect. It's a very expensive and complicated system. And the siting of the send and receive, the transmit and receive sites were chosen based on best location, best capacity. And I can tell you that major outreach has taken place. Town halls have been held. I've briefed members of Parliament. I've connected members of Parliament to the Department for detailed briefings. And that dialogue continues, so we're hopeful we'll be able to move forward.
So with the over-the-polar radar system, has the site been selected as well? And where are we at with that? I know there was some initial dollars that were given to an organization up in around.
Yeah, it's not finalized yet. It's under research. Certainly, we'll give you any information we've got on that. But obviously, the polar situation, so it's not quite the same.
Okay, have you been concerned at all about making sure that our north warning system is fully functional until these get up and built? And they're supposed to be done end of life in 2025. Guess what? We're the end of 2025.
Can I ask Ms. Beck to give you a quick update on that?
Yeah.
Happy to respond. The north warning system, despite its age, is being properly maintained and is in full operation. We are working, depends on the day, but we make sure that the vast majority is responded to, certainly in times of need. We're there within hours to make sure that the situation is resolved and the equipment is back up and running. But by and large, it's in really good shape for an old system like that.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Bazan. I did provide extra time because of the interruptions. We only have a few minutes left. Ms. Romano, do you want to just, I can't give you 5 minutes, sorry. But take a minute or two.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. And it's not Romano, I'm not Cheese, but thank you. Thank you very much, Minister, for being here today. You alluded a little bit about Borealis, but I'd like if you could elaborate a little bit about DISH. I know that's something, the Defense Innovation Secure Hub is something that we're actively pursuing. If you'd like to just elaborate quickly on that.
We're one of the only jurisdictions that doesn't have a specialized series of locations where we can conduct classified research with, for example, CSE, and with private sector actors like IBM and startups, venture capitalists, foreign direct investors like sovereign wealth funds. We need to connect our private sector with our public sector on the defense side so that the private sector has a better understanding of what our needs will be. And in so doing, we will give rise to research centers that are capable of having classified research conducted. Because we don't want to necessarily tip our hat to what we're doing, what we need to keep ourselves secure and sovereign. So that's why we've decided to stand up a series of these dishes around the country. We'll be catching up to other actors like the United States. And in the design of this system, we've looked around the world, what has worked, what hasn't worked. And we're very encouraged. We've got so much Canadian talent, as you know, Ms. Romanato, in Quebec, elsewhere, so much talent, so many engineers, so many entrepreneurs. I like to say we're going to compete and we're going to win, and that's what we're trying to do. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Romanato. I apologize. I have misspoke on a few of my the members of the Liberal Party. All of them, I have actually. Mr. Kibble, you should feel okay because you're in good company. And I do apologize for that. Yeah, I do. Minister, thank you for being here. I am going to suspend for a moment to allow us to do a transition and to
Mr. Chair, could I just take a minute to wish all members of the Canadian Armed Forces a great holiday, happy holiday, and Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah. Thank them for their service wherever they are here, and I'm sure all members would join in wishing them the very best and thank them for their service. Thank you, sir.
Well said. Thank you. Meeting suspended just for a moment.
Okay. So that's it for this one. We've got a little bit of a break, about an hour 45 until we start up again at 11. I haven't made the link yet, but I'm going to go work on that right now. For the first hour, we're going to watch Wayne Long in the Public Accounts Committee. And then in the second hour, we're going to switch over to the Security Committee where we're talking about Bill C-8. So we'll be live for 2 hours for that. Then we've got question period. And then we've got two committees on we're watching in the afternoon after. So I still got to make those links, but just check back on the channel in like 10 minutes and you'll see the link there. So I do appreciate everybody tuning in so early. I know some people are in Alberta and even on the West Coast, and it's still early for you guys. So really appreciate you guys tuning in and watching. But yeah, we'll take a bit of a break. I'm going to go make some links for the next stream, which will be at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So again, like in an hour and 45, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Cheers, guys. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.